Just a little overview of the project that's discussed in the paper and covered in the tutorial. We're looking at a Revit document of the adaptive component repeated to create a space frame, Calatrava inspired kind of form made out of wood, let's say, but an adaptive component continually repeated and then changing according to a defined shape. And if I was to go over and I can open up the dynamo definition here. You take a look at, this is the full definition that was developed to create that shape, from the slider inputs to the plane cutting to the flattening out for dimensioning, to adding the fabric roof membrane that's indicated, and then eventually to exporting those, taking those adaptive components and plugging them back into Revit. So I'll reduce this down again and move it out of the way and pull our definition over so our sliders are exposed. You know, in the future, I would think that well, probably with a little experimentation, I could probably figure out a way to get these sliders to probably appear inside of the Revit environment. Let's, now that's going to get a little fussy with me here. Let's see if there we go. We'll just push this off to the side. Now we have the ribs, the wall heights, wall lengths, and we're looking at the Revit sheet drawing A101. And on that sheet I put a bird's eye view, a rendered view, and then a plan view of the adaptive elements as if they were going out to fabrication. And in this one area I've added a dimension to it. I can zoom in a little bit. You can see that, and I want you to be able to pay attention to that a little bit later on as we make some changes, because that's going to dynamically update. So let's go ahead and let's first of all see what happens when we do a couple of changes. So we'll just we'll take it down to what will be 4 ribs. I say 3 because it's 0 is always one of the components in the way Dynamo manipulates number systems. So we'll go ahead and run that, and now you notice we have 4 ribs. Relatively a much more unattractive looking frame because of that reduction in the ribbing, and we can see the adaptive component now redimension. So let's take this back up again and experiment with putting, well, say 12 ribs in, and I'll go ahead and run that, and these relatively quickly update, and there we have now 12 ribs. That's 12 ribs per side for a total of 24. And we can see how now we might want to, let's say, adjust the lofting, how high the end point of the element is. So I'm just going to take this down with a slider and then rerun that and wait for that to update. All of our elements over here have updated, and now we have a kind of a sad looking structure. So we don't like that idea. Let's go ahead and increase that back up again. And let's say the client desires more interior space between the two elements for whatever kind of programming we might have intended for that. So go ahead and run this first just to get the flare back. And now we want to actually control that space between, which is the interior width. So this is in a negative value because we're just offsetting in a negative direction just because of the way I had generated the original definition. If I wanted it to be positive, I could put a code block in to just flip it around. So let's just change this to -20. That'll move it over 10 feet and rerun it. And there we have just the increase of span. And nothing here remarkable. Obviously, when you make updates to a BIM document, every view will update accordingly. But the important thing here to take note is that we have a flexible Dynamo definition. This could actually be a client interface or a design team interface that allows multiple participants to experiment with the design within limits of programming goals. So I hope this is a good little overview of the kind of functioning usefulness of Dynamo in this type of design activity.